Today we're going to talk about the philosopher Immanuel Kant. Now, previously we talked about the Enlightenment, which was birthed in these twin pillars of Descartes' philosophical rationalism and the scientific revolution of Galileo and Isaac Newton. Now, these movements and discoveries led to a radical shift in worldview, how to understand the world. Now, the philosopher Immanuel Kant represents this Enlightenment worldview. In a famous statement, Kant sums up the Enlightenment in this way. Enlightenment is man's emergence from his self-incurred immaturity. Immaturity is the inability to use one's own understanding without the guidance of another. This immaturity is self-incurred if its cause is not lack of understanding, but lack of resolution and courage to use it without the guidance of another. The motto of the Enlightenment is therefore, dare to be wise. Have courage to use your own understanding. For Kant, the Enlightenment is summed up in this, have courage to use your own understanding. The Enlightenment represents one's realization of personal autonomy. The Enlightenment lifts humanity out of its past dependence upon an external authority so that they can think for themselves. This decision to think for oneself is a confidence and courage to trust in one's own freedom, to think critically and pursue true knowledge. Kant developed a philosophical system that reconciled rationalism and empiricism. This philosophical system is often called transcendental idealism. Right, so we have a lot of terms here, but just we'll slow things down. We'll break things apart here for a second. So prior to Kant, philosophers believed that the mind was primarily passive in the act of knowing. Now, Kant challenged this view by arguing that the mind is actually constructive. It's not purely passive when it comes to know something. For Kant, knowledge is constructed as the mind interacts with the external world. Now, the mind uses innate concepts in itself, what Kant calls transcendental conditions, to interpret our experiences. Now, a few examples of transcendental conditions are things like space and time and causality. Now, we're not used to thinking of these concepts as transcendental, but imagine you're watching a game of dominoes. When one domino falls, it knocks down the next one, and then that one knocks down another one, creating a chain reaction. We understand that the falling of one domino causes the others to fall in a certain order. This idea of cause and effect is something that we automatically know and we use to make sense of the world. We use this category to interpret things. Well, according to Kant, this idea of cause and effect is not just something we learn from watching dominoes or other events. This notion of cause and effect is actually built into our minds, like a special tool we have, or a pair of glasses we put on to see. Kant calls these tools or these lenses transcendental conditions. These concepts are transcendental or ideal. They're in the sense that they're not in themselves objects of experience. They're more like ideas or rules that our minds use to make sense of everything around us. These concepts serve as the foundation of all our knowledge. In fact, without them, we couldn't know anything at all. Our mind uses these concepts to make sense of what we see, perceive in the world. But as our mind does this, it does not come to know things in themselves. We don't come to know how things truly are, but only how things appear to us. See, for Kant, all knowledge is mediated. All knowledge is passed through. Remember, it's passed through these transcendental conditions, these structures and categories in our mind. Now, these transcendental conditions help us to interpret what we see. Here, Kant is distinguishing between two realms of knowledge, what he calls the noumenal realm and the phenomenal realm. Now, the phenomenal realm is the realm of sense perception. It's the empirical realm of science. It is what can be studied or understood through observation and experimentation. This realm of appearances is the world as it appears to us through our senses, and it's governed by the laws of nature. But the noumenal realm is beyond sense perception. It is the realm of morality and value. The noumenal realm cannot be studied or understood through empirical observation, through our sense perception. The noumenal realm is concerned with questions of meaning, questions of purpose, and questions of ethics, and it's accessed through practical reason rather than theoretical reason. This is the realm, for Kant, this is the realm of religion. See, for Kant, there's science and religion, and these two are distinct domains of knowledge. They operate according to different principles and methods. We can't confuse them or conflate them with one another. Kant argued that humans do not ever know things in themselves. For Kant, there is an absolute chasm between the thing in itself and the thing to us, what the thing truly is and how we perceive it to be. In this way, Kant rejected traditional metaphysical claims about the nature of reality. Kant is a tide mark in the history of philosophy. Kant distinguished between the phenomenal world and the world as we experience it, and the noumenal world, the world as it is in itself. And by making this distinction, Kant rejected metaphysics. According to Kant, metaphysical realities, things such as God and the soul, are beyond the reach of human reason because they exist in the noumenal realm, which is inaccessible to human knowledge. While we may have a sense of the divine through our experience or intuition, we cannot know anything about the nature of God or the existence of God through our a priori or transcendental concepts and categories of the mind. These simply cannot provide us knowledge of God. Therefore, Kant believed that the existence of God is beyond our ability to know with any certainty. It can't be proven. And he also believed that any claims about God's existence or nature must be based on practical reason rather than theoretical reason. Kant's philosophy, it imposes these limitations on the practice of theology. Again, according to Kant, we can't know God in himself, who God truly is, apart from us. Such a view is entirely in line with his epistemology. Kant denied our ability to know many fundamental Christian doctrines, things that are at the core and center of the Christian faith, such as the doctrine of the Trinity, the doctrine of Christology, Christ existing in two natures. Kant's rejection of traditional metaphysics and his emphasis on the limitations of human knowledge also led to a crisis of faith for some Christians, as they heard Kant's ideas and they simply struggled to reconcile their faith with these limits of reason. Now, Kant distinguished between theoretical reason and practical reason. While theoretical reason deals with the knowledge based on sense experience, practical reason is concerned with ethics and with the universal sense of right and wrong. Religion for Kant was not a matter of theoretical reason, but of practical reason. Now, Kant's view raised some serious questions. How can we know God? How can we prove God's existence? Can we prove God's existence? See, for Kant, knowledge of religion cannot be grounded in sense perception. Rather, religion is rooted in the universal human experience of moral law. The universal human experience of moral law. Moral law is not a matter of theoretical reason, but it's a matter of practical reason. For Kant, we can actually prove God, though, if we appeal to this universal sense of morality, this sense of what is right and what is wrong that all humans have. Kant thus understands morality as an a priori. It's something that it pre-exists our experience. On the basis of this inner moral law, we can know that God exists, even if we can't know how God exists. So how should we understand Kant's view of God? Well, Kant did not hope to rid the world of religion or of Christian faith. He wanted to situate faith, to set it within its proper context and limitations. Within its proper limits, Kant identified an ethical basis for faith in God. We can prove God, Kant argued, on the basis of morality. So how should we sum up Kant's contribution, Kant's significance? Well, it's difficult to overstate Kant's significance for modern theology. Kant's philosophical insights and his really revolutionary ideas impacted theology, and they continue to shape our understanding of faith and reason. Today, Kant challenged the traditional proofs for God's existence, and he questioned the limits of human knowledge. He asserted that many of the proofs that we had previously used to prove God were no longer valid, because he rejected metaphysics, and he rejected that we can know metaphysical realities such as God and the soul. These simply lie beyond the reach of human reason. Now, this rejection of metaphysics and the distinction between the phenomenal and noumenal realms led to a crisis of faith. Many saw what Kant was arguing, and they struggled to reconcile their faith with these limitations that Kant imposed. But Kant's philosophy also imposed limitations on the very practice of theology. He emphasized the importance of practical reason, rooted in the universal experience of moral law. And he argued that this was the basis of religion. While we may not be able to know God himself, Kant argued that faith in God can be grounded in morality. After Kant, we find a temptation among theologians to reduce theology to ethics. Using Kant's language, theologians were tempted to shift theology from the realm of theoretical knowledge to the realm of practical knowledge. And we see this influence among many of the liberal theologians of the 19th century.